Former President Donald Trump has thrust immigration back into the spotlight with a controversial proposal. His plan has sparked intense debate across the nation, drawing both fervent support and vehement opposition. He plans to declare a national emergency to enact a sweeping deportation plan if re-elected. This move is seen as a bold and unprecedented step in addressing the complex issue of immigration. This declaration, typically reserved for major crises such as natural disasters or national security threats, would grant him significant authority to address undocumented immigration. It would allow the president to bypass Congress and implement measures swiftly. Trump believes this is necessary to secure the border and protect American citizens. He argues that the current state of the border is a national security risk that needs immediate and decisive action. The plan's centerpiece is the mass deportation of undocumented immigrants. This would involve large-scale operations to identify, detain, and remove individuals who are in the country illegally. Trump argues that current immigration policies are too lax and encourage illegal border crossings. He believes that stricter enforcement is necessary to deter future illegal immigration. He believes that mass deportation will deter future illegal immigration and restore order to the system. By taking a hardline stance, Trump aims to send a clear message that illegal entry into the United States will not be tolerated. However, this proposal has ignited a firestorm of controversy. Many people, including politicians, activists, and ordinary citizens, have voiced strong opposition to the plan. Critics argue that it is extreme, inhumane, and potentially unconstitutional. They contend that such measures violate the rights of individuals and could lead to widespread human suffering. They believe it targets vulnerable populations and undermines America's values as a nation of immigrants. The United States has long been seen as a land of opportunity, and many feel that this plan contradicts that ideal. The debate over Trump's deportation plan exposes a deep divide in American society. It highlights the contrasting views on immigration and the challenges of finding a balanced approach. It raises fundamental questions about national security, human rights, and the rule of law. How can the country protect its borders while also upholding its commitment to human dignity and justice? The outcome of this debate will have far-reaching consequences for the nation's future. It will shape the direction of U.S. immigration policy and influence the broader discourse on how to address complex social issues in a diverse and democratic society. Integral to Trump's deportation plan is the unprecedented involvement of the U.S. military. This marks a significant shift in how immigration enforcement is approached, leveraging the military's extensive capabilities. The military, with its vast resources and manpower, would play a key role in identifying, apprehending, and deporting undocumented immigrants. This would mean a substantial increase in the military's domestic responsibilities, traditionally handled by civilian agencies. This would involve utilizing military personnel, surveillance technology, and transportation systems. Advanced surveillance tools like drones and sophisticated monitoring equipment would be deployed to track and locate undocumented individuals. Trump argues that the military is best equipped to handle the logistical challenges of mass deportation. He believes that their organizational structure and discipline make them ideal for such a large-scale operation. He envisions the military setting up detention centers, conducting raids, and transporting individuals back to their countries of origin. These operations would be carried out with military precision and efficiency, aiming to streamline the deportation process. This mobilization of military resources for a domestic issue has alarmed many critics. They worry about the implications of using armed forces in civilian matters, which could set a concerning precedent. They argue that it is a dangerous overreach of executive power. The use of the military in this context raises questions about the balance of power and the potential for abuse. They fear that deploying the military for civilian law enforcement will erode the line between military and civilian authority. This blurring of roles could undermine the principles of democracy and civilian oversight. This could lead to the militarization of domestic policy and threaten civil liberties. The presence of military forces in cities and towns might create an atmosphere of fear and intimidation among the populace. Furthermore, critics question the military's training and suitability for such a task. Soldiers are trained for combat scenarios, not for the nuanced and often delicate nature of civilian law enforcement. They argue that soldiers are trained for combat, not civilian law enforcement. The skills required for effective policing and community engagement are vastly different from those needed on the battlefield. Using them in this capacity raises serious concerns about potential human rights abuses and the use of excessive force. The risk of escalating situations into violent confrontations is a significant worry for human rights advocates. Historical examples of military overreach in civilian matters serve as a cautionary tale. Lessons from the past highlight the importance of maintaining clear boundaries between military and civilian roles to protect democratic values and human rights. Community leaders and activists are calling for alternative solutions that do not involve the military. They advocate for more humane and effective immigration policies that respect the rights and dignity of all individuals. Trump's plan to deploy the military for deportations has ignited a firestorm of legal and ethical concerns. This controversial move has sparked intense debate across the nation, with many questioning the implications for both the present and the future. Critics argue that it violates the Posse Comitatus Act, a law that prohibits the federal government from using the military for domestic law enforcement. This act, established in 1878, was designed to limit the powers of the federal government in using military personnel to enforce domestic policies. They believe this move sets a dangerous precedent and undermines the principle of civilian control of the military. The balance between military and civilian authority is a cornerstone of American democracy, and any shift in this balance could have far-reaching consequences. Furthermore, the plan's ethical implications are deeply troubling to many. The use of military force in civilian matters raises questions about the moral responsibilities of a government towards its people. Opponents argue that mass deportations would tear families apart, separating parents from their children and devastating communities. The emotional and psychological toll on families, especially children, could be profound and long-lasting. They believe it is inhumane to uproot individuals who have built lives in the United States regardless of their legal status. Many of these individuals have contributed to their communities, established businesses, and formed deep social ties. The plan also raises concerns about racial profiling and discrimination. The potential for abuse of power and targeting based on race or ethnicity is a significant worry for many civil rights advocates. Critics fear that the military, given broad authority to target individuals based on perceived immigration status, will disproportionately target people of color. This could exacerbate existing tensions and lead to further divisions within society. This could lead to widespread fear and mistrust of law enforcement within immigrant communities. The relationship between law enforcement and the communities they serve is already fragile, and this plan could further erode that trust. Additionally, the declaration of a national emergency to justify this plan has been met with skepticism. Many view it as an overreach of executive power, raising concerns about the potential for future abuses. Critics argue that it is an abuse of executive power and sets a dangerous precedent for future administrations. The use of national emergency declarations for political purposes could undermine the checks and balances that are fundamental to the U.S. political system. They believe it undermines the role of Congress in making national policy. The legislative branch is tasked with creating and passing laws, and any attempt to bypass this process threatens the democratic principles upon which the nation was founded. The debate over this plan is not just about immigration. It touches on broader issues of power, governance, and the role of the military in society. As the nation grapples with these questions, the decisions made today will undoubtedly shape the future of American democracy. The economic consequences of Trump's deportation plan are complex and hotly debated. Proponents argue that it would boost the economy by freeing up jobs for American citizens and reducing the strain on social services. They believe that undocumented immigrants depress wages and take jobs away from Americans. However, opponents paint a very different picture. They argue that mass deportations would devastate the economy, particularly industries that rely heavily on immigrant labor, such as agriculture, construction, and hospitality. They believe it would lead to labor shortages, business closures, and a decline in economic output. Furthermore, critics point to the significant costs associated with carrying out mass deportations. Apprehending, detaining, processing, and transporting millions of individuals would require a massive investment of taxpayer dollars. They argue that these costs would far outweigh any perceived economic benefits. The economic impact of the plan remains a subject of intense debate. It is unclear whether it would lead to prosperity for American workers or economic turmoil. The long-term consequences are difficult to predict with certainty.